There's one story that has haunted me for years. Out of all the terrifying ghost stories I've ever come across, this one still lingers in the back of my mind, and I can't forget it, no matter how hard I try. I originally read it in an old book of true paranormal encounters. I wish I could remember the exact title, but all I recall is the way it made my skin crawl. The book claimed this was a real event, but I've never been able to find any more information about it. Still, the memory of the story sticks with me, and I want to share it with you. It happened years ago, in a quiet, unremarkable town somewhere in the United States. A young couple and their daughter had just moved into an old house on the edge of town. It was the kind of home people might describe as having character, but it was old, creaky, and full of shadows. One night, not long after they settled in, the daughter woke up to something strange. She said she was pulled from sleep by a thick, acrid smell, like smoke, but it was hard to tell if she was awake or still dreaming. The air felt heavy. Breathing was difficult. As her eyes adjusted, she realized something was terribly wrong. Her bedroom looked completely different. The wallpaper was yellowed and peeling. The floor was covered in torn, rotting carpet. Everything looked old, like it had been abandoned for decades. Cobwebs hung in the corners. Mold crept along the ceiling. The furniture was strange, not like anything her family owned. It was like she had stepped back in time, or into someone else's nightmare. Panicked, she got up and ran toward her parents' room. She never made it there. Minutes later, the neighbors were startled by pounding on their front door, followed by the terrified screams of a little girl. When they opened the door, they found the young girl from next door standing there barefoot, trembling and crying. She kept pointing back at her house. When they looked out, they saw it. The girl's home was engulfed in flames. They called the fire department immediately. By the time the blaze was brought under control, most of the house had been destroyed, and inside, in the smoldering remains of the master bedroom, the firemen made a horrifying discovery: the burned bodies of the girl's parents. They had been trapped in bed and had died in the fire. When the police questioned the girl, she told them something even more disturbing. She said that when she opened her parents' bedroom door, they were already dead. Standing over their lifeless bodies were two boys, young, dressed in tattered, old-fashioned clothes. One of them was holding a pair of bloody scissors. Their eyes were empty, unblinking, cold. That's when she screamed and ran. Of course, the authorities dismissed it at first. They believed she must have been hallucinating, or still half asleep when she ran from the house. Some suggested she was in shock and having vivid nightmares. But something about her story stayed with the investigators, and eventually they decided to look into the house's past. What they uncovered was chilling. Years earlier, before the building had been converted into a private home, it had served a different purpose. It was a reform school, specifically one that housed young black boys. The conditions there were horrendous. The boys were abused, neglected, and treated as if they were less than human. After multiple incidents and reports of mistreatment, the reform school was shut down. No one ever told the family what the house had once been, and no one could ever convince the little girl that what she saw was just a dream. To this day, no one knows for sure what really happened that night. But I can tell you this: out of all the stories I've read about ghosts, hauntings, and restless spirits, this one disturbed me the most. It got under my skin. I eventually had to throw the book away because I couldn't stop dreaming about that house, those boys, and that moment frozen in time. If anyone out there knows where this story came from, if you recognize it or know where it happened, please leave a comment. I'd love to dig deeper and find out the truth, if I'm brave enough to hear it.